नित्यानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वदी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि. Nithyanandam, and welcome everyone for yet another live program during this 45th Chaturmasya celebrations of our beloved Swamiji. Every single day, we have been listening to various satsangs from Swamiji, powerful cognitions on different aspects, different dimensions, and that is enlightening us. We've seen different paths to enlightenment, whether it is seva, whether it is knowledge or bhakti or following the Guruvag in various aspects. Today, we will be listening to the importance of bringing up children who would be the new generation, the future of our entire world. As we can see, as we are learning different knowledge that we are learning from Swamiji. Swamiji is not just enlightening us, teaching us only spirituality or enlightenment. Literally, Swamiji is giving us the knowledge of the microcosm as well as the macrocosm. Whether it is the Jiva, Jagat or Ishvara, that is the self, the world or the God. The entire cosmic knowledge Swamiji is revealing to us. And more we realize what we have learned from the society is not really learning. We have been misled, misinformed, and suppressed, and leading into a very dangerous future if there is. Today, we will be learning from Swamiji about the new generation, the next generation that has to become the new generation. Swamiji says most of the world's population, the majority of the world's population is youth, and that is the most untapped energy in the world. Now, how do we tap that energy into conscious beings? That science also Swamiji has taught us. Today, we have a very special guest, Dinesh Rathore, one of the founding fathers of KAILASA, a dedicated volunteer, a Pujacharya from KAILASA, San Jose. He is joining us to share his journey with Swamiji and how Swamiji has inspired him to bring up his kids with this enlightened knowledge. Nithyanandamaya.
Nithyananda, thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
Yes, thank you and welcome to the show, Aya. If you could please introduce yourself. How did you meet Swamiji? How did this journey begin?
Sure. So my name is Vinesh. I live in San Jose with my wife and two young boys. I'm a Pujacharya, as you mentioned, in the San Jose Sangha here. And, I'm a lawyer by profession. So, I would say I was not like, when I first found Swamiji, I wasn't looking for a guru. I wasn't seeking that at the time, but I was definitely in a strong, place of seeking. It was 2012. That's when I first met Swamiji. And, I had achieved all the kind of big check boxes in material life. I'd gotten a great job. I was working at Google. I was, everything was very good professionally and financially. And I was living in a beautiful home and, had a wife. And so all those things, the important things that, our parents care about and the things we value in our culture, I had checked those boxes. But I still felt like there was something missing. There's something else more that wasn't there. And, I had always been interested in spirituality and philosophy and religion and those things. And especially Hinduism. I was always very passionate about Hinduism and reading about it, but it was more as a student or as an observer visiting a temple. It wasn't as a practitioner, really. But in 2012, I was just in this seeking phase. I was watching a lot of, reading different books. I was watching a lot of different, ideas and masters on YouTube. I joke that it's my YouTube Yatra phase, where I was just traveling around YouTube, seeing different places and meeting, seeing different, speakers and like so many of us, the YouTube algorithm took me to Swamiji. And I at first I was like, okay, he's, he speaks very, seems very knowledgeable. He's young. But as I was watching him also just in terms of his body language, it was very strange. It felt like he wasn't a person. It felt like it was just truth coming through a body, if that makes sense. It wasn't like he was saying and thinking. He was just flowing. And it wasn't like there was a being there. It was just the cosmos speaking, right, through a body. Um, and the more I watched him and the more learned, I couldn't find any flaw with the things he was saying, the concepts and his explanations, and it all seemed like it made sense. Um, and also I was reading about the Mayan calendar, the 2012 shift, all different cultures were saying that there was a major shift taking place. And it just felt like there was something happening. Uh, and Swamiji, of course, was talking about it too. And he mentioned how he's been doing this inner awakening program, but he's doing a very special one in December of 2012, and he'd be doing it on a cruise. And so I'm thinking, this sounds very illogical or very strange. I'm a professional. I'm a lawyer. I'm not some guy traveling around chasing gurus and doing spiritual vacations. Even I was pretty materialistic then. I liked my luxurious loafers and my nice car and the drinking fine wine. Like those things are the things you aspire to in that world. Um, but I remember him talking about that 2012 program, and he said this is the right time with the right person, in the right place, I think. And so, he was saying this is the same energy when Krishna took the body. When Krishna was in the body, this is the same kind of time we're in now. And so something just told me I need to be there, And like I said, it wasn't a logical thing. It was just purely like a being level. I just needed to see this through. And thankfully, my wife Divya was supportive. She said, "Okay, if you want to, do that, go for it." And she didn't, have any issue. My parents and family thought I was a little bit, they're like, really going on a cruise and guru and, meditation cruise. What is all this, right? What is Vinesh up to in California? But, but I just decided, let me just go. I need to go and see this firsthand and see it through. It just felt right. Um, and I went there and it was a very, again, surreal experience. You see darshans and you see people having Kundalini awakening and it's all very a lot to take in, especially as an outsider seeing it for the first time. But it was very profound too. There was something going on, and Swamiji would perform different pujas himself. He was doing, all those things he was doing. Just, he was conducting everything. And he did this one. I remember this Rudra puja was, I think, one of the main pujas he did, and the whole ship was just, it was a storm. The whole ship was swaying and moving, and it was just completely, it was like, where am I in the middle of the ocean and with this this puja in the middle of a hurricane? What's going on? And I remember he had to stop a couple times because of the waves and the movement of the boat, but he finally finished it, and it did feel like something was happening. I couldn't put words on it, but it felt very profound. And I remember going up to the deck afterwards to see the ocean, and the waves were like 20 feet tall. It was unreal. The ship was like a little matchstick, floating in the in the ocean, right? And I should have been much more nervous and worried and scared, thinking, "Where the heck am I? What am I doing in this?" But somehow it all made sense, and it was like, "Okay, no problem. This is happening." Um, but that was my first experience, was that program. And one thing Swamiji said at the end of it was that I'm giving you a driver's license for life. Like this inner awakening program is a driver's license for life, right? And it really felt that way in terms of the IA hall never ended. It feels like even after coming back home and in my life afterwards, it felt like just it's still the program. It's still, Swamiji's hall wherever I am. And he just acts through different people and through different situations, but it's still him, right? So yeah, that was, it was a before and after. If I think about my life beforehand and my life after, so much has changed, and it's almost like I don't recognize, who I was before in some ways too, which as so many have said before, right? But yeah, it was a very profound experience.
Nice. If I can just rewind a little bit, you skipped that one important part of the first darshan. How was it after, especially after watching Swamiji's YouTube videos, the first moment, the first time you saw Swamiji and the first
Yeah,
darshan?
I think it was actually a Kalabhaiva darshan or something, because he was doing a lot of Kalabhaiva stuff that during that program, and it was just like he seems like he's 10 feet tall, right? He's huge, and he's on a stage. We were in the auditorium of the ship, and so it was just like you're on a cruise, basically, a regular cruise, and then there's this being standing on the stage, on his padakas with the nails, and he has this trishul, and he's laughing, and so and of course the people who were around me were just like flying out of their seats. I'm like, what is going on? Where have I landed? So it was extremely surreal, but not in a bad way. It wasn't like, oh my God, what have I gotten into in a bad way? It was just like, this is very big and overwhelming and you know, and a lot to take in. But yeah, I'll never forget that first, you know, that first darshan just because of how big he looked and how you know how grand, but also just the fact that we were in this cruise, you know, in this auditorium, which is meant for like typically shows and comedians and concerts. But here Swamiji was doing his thing, you know, right there. So it was like, and even I remember during later on, like when we walk around the ship, like there was one day where you know, that in the evening the darshan ended early, and you know, I took a walk around, and there's a casino there. There's, you know, there's shops and there's you know, singers and various things, and it felt like this weird Leela. Like everyone else was enjoying this Leela experience of the material world, and we were in this one hall experiencing completely different, you know. And so just seeing that side by side was very you know, it just reminds you how different life is outside versus, you know, with the guru.
Wonderful, Aya. Your first moment of talking to Swamiji, getting the blessing. What was that experience?
You know, I just remember having like no, like just you don't have thoughts, you don't have you know, I didn't have a way to even put it into words. I was like just like thinking, it was just I remember seeing his face, and it was like his face was just kind of frozen in my mind's eye, you know, for the period afterwards, you know. Um, and I still like if I think back, I can probably still see his, you know, his eyes and his face. So it was very yeah, it was something entirely different. And like I said, it was just the biggest thing was, you know, I didn't necessarily feel something then, but I just look at afterwards how things changed in my awareness and my cognitions and my, you know, how I handle life and everything else. And it's been just, you know, it's like you're going one direction and suddenly just, you know, after that touch from the guru, just everything just kind of just changes, you know. And so yeah, it was something beyond words.
So beautiful, Aya. Aya, since then you have attended various programs and also have become one of the founding fathers of Kailasa. How was that experience? What led to that journey?
You know, Swamiji, you know, I think the part that inspired me most about him was his mission, his sense of mission. Like he wasn't just here to bless and enlighten, and he was here to really build a new civilization based on enlightenment and revitalizing Hindu civilization, and that's something that really spoke to me. You know, as a Hindu growing up, I was born and raised in America. So, you know, my feet are in two worlds. You know, I still had a great connection and love for, you know, my homeland and ancestral places, and I love visiting temples and things. But modern India is very different from that world too. And when I read the scriptures and different books and different Puranas and things, it just felt like a world that was so distant and far from the modern world that it's so hard to reconcile the two. Like, how does that matter in this current modern age, in this modern world where things are so different? Um, but Swamiji is the one who kind of like is closing the gap between those two for me, because he came back to say, I'm only here to make Hinduism accessible again, to make it user friendly again and relatable to modern man, and um, and that's exactly what he did. Like I feel like I went from being more of an observer or a student of Hinduism to becoming a practitioner, where I was, you know, actually making it part of my lifestyle, whether it was taking a vegetarian lifestyle for me and my family, whether it was doing yoga and doing pujas and you know, just or even dressing in traditional Indian clothes, which is something, you know, even when you go to India, it's so funny because when I would eat later, years later after programs, sometimes I'd go to see my family in Jaipur, and I decided, you know what, I'm in India, let me wear my kurta and dhoti and stuff. I'm in India, why not, you know? And you know, when I saw my family there, you would think an alien landed. They see that and they're like, why are you? What you're America from America? You're wearing this? Like, why would you wear a dhoti and stuff? Like for them, it was almost like, and it wasn't even shock. It was also just like it was like almost like a negative. They thought, why would you wear Western clothes? Why would you wear that? You know, and it just it really shocked me how that attitude that Hindus carried towards themselves and their own traditions and culture. And you know, for me as a as someone born and raised outside of India, coming back to that and trying to embrace my culture, I felt very conflicted. I thought, wow, that's so strange. You would think this would be celebrated. And in fact, that's not what I remember telling my relatives. I said, look, if I was a you know, a Muslim kid going to Mecca, wearing the traditional dress, doing my rituals and things, everyone would be very supportive and very excited that, oh wow, he's keeping his culture, right? Or if I was a Jewish kid growing up in America and coming back to Jerusalem or wherever and practicing and wearing the traditional wear, it would be very celebrated and supported. But in India with Hinduism, it was actually the opposite. it was like, oh, you're so smart and you're so accomplished. Why would you go to temples and do this stuff? And what's the point of all that? That's stupid. It should be about making money and whatever. The values were completely opposite. And and I often wonder if I'd grown up in India, would I be as connected to Hinduism as if having not grown up in India? I think in some ways by not growing up in India, I had a stronger affinity for the culture and the history and those things, and maybe I take it for granted if I lived in India. So that's the biggest thing was him making it a actual lifestyle that we can practice here and now today and embrace and you know um and the fact that I can wear, if I wear a dhoti and go into puja that day in the temple, my kids can see that and they can see, oh wow, that this is normal. You can wear your traditional clothes and not feel like I'm an alien or I'm some out of place person. So having that confidence and that normalcy in that sense is something I really want to imbibe in my children. And so it's nice to be able to have that through our temple and through Swamiji's teachings and satsang, and that we can now have like a community where that can happen for kids too.
Right. Actually, yeah, you were born, brought up in the US. So where you have been complete exposure to the Western culture, and you had a choice to make. And especially today, we are talking about the impact of the society, especially the internet on the youth. You had the exposure to everything. You had the choice, and then you make the choice. You decided to seek something more deeper because
Mm.
this is the superficial. That is so now from that you would have learned a lot how how I want my kids to be. How is Swamiji's teaching? Naturally, this is something that you are very passionate about, how to bring up kids in their culture. Like you said, it's literally a cultural shock for you to be a Hindu in India. You felt you faced that, then you better off, you felt like, okay, I'm better off coming back. I probably more passion towards Hinduism growing up in the US than in India. I mean, that is unfortunately the situation today. But how do you feel like what exactly you wanted for the kid and how you got that from Swamiji's teachings? Can you share about that?
Definitely, yeah. The Western culture has many positives and many benefits, and there's parts of it that are really, wonderful. It's a very efficient, country, and there's rule of law. There's lots of good things about America, but socially and culturally, it can be very damaging too, just because there's no like moral guidance, there's no spiritual framework anymore. It's all kind of materialism and making money and just the most like, when you watch TV or watch, movies, it's all mostly just garbage. It's meant to put you in a lower state. It's never meant to inspire you. It's really meant to either, make you, aroused or greedy or fearful. It's just meant to bring up these negative emotions. And that's something I also feel like I realized after, Swamiji's initiations that we have this different awareness. You have a different level of kind of awareness of what's around you and things that I would take for granted before about how TV shows were or how movies were. I suddenly saw them much more clearly after Swamiji. And I remember I hadn't been watching TV for quite a bit, and then I went back after a couple months and started watching again. And I was like, man, every commercial, every show, it's all meant to instill fear and greed in us. And that's what, when you see kids nowadays, they're behind a screen most of the day. I've seen kids walking through stores with their screen just as they're walking through, they hold the screen up their face. And so it's a really negative lifestyle and mindset of all these things give us. And so I became very aware that, wow, now that I have kids, I have to think about what am I putting in them, like what are they gonna imbibe, and what will they take as their cognitions. And so that awareness has been so important because Swamiji, I think it was the first I've been to a few different programs, and it's hard to remember where I heard which parts, but I think it was maybe in Haridwar. He was talking about completion, and the example he gave was about how when you take a candy from a child, that child will struggle for breath. That child will be like they're dying. That's how it feels for them. And that's an attitude I never had growing up. In our family and in many families, kids are kind of like, oh yeah, they're just kids. They don't know anything. Or if that's something bad happened, oh, it's okay. They'll get over it. It's a small thing, no big deal. We never actually talk to the kids at their level and relate to them at their level and see what they're actually experiencing. And Swamiji was the first person to say, no, this is actually extremely important. Even the small things for them at that age is very important, and be sensitive to it. Don't just, brush it under the rug and say, oh, they're just kids. It's not a big deal. It's just candy. For them, that was the best thing in their world. And so having that mindset and that awareness has really influenced how I, raise my kids in terms of listening to them and hearing them and understanding what they're experiencing and going through. Because, without that, they're just going to be raised by the culture in the schools or in the, on the media and through their society, which is very negative, because here, despite all the good things about, this country, there's a lot of negativity as far as the, divorce rate or how, how kids, it's, there's just so much mental, wellness issues. There's so many signs of a sick society, whether it's mental or physical. And that's what I want to protect them from. And Swamiji has provided that ecosystem where we can, and both mental and also physical, for us to address these things and raise kids, in the modern world, which is can be a very negative place, but in a positive way. So yeah, raising kids has been really like a rubber meets the road. You have to really apply the teachings and make it work, because it's there. You can't do it again. It's not a theoretical exercise anymore. So in that regard, it's been extremely beneficial having Swamiji there as a guidepost for every parent, because there's no manual for being a parent. You have to figure it out as you go along. So yeah, thankfully we have Swamiji.
Nice. Actually, yeah, like, it's so too precious as, as a kid, as a child getting introduced to Swamiji, because the first introduction Swamiji gives to us is that you are Paramashiva. That introduction, and with the knowledge that Swami gives, about the root pattern and how the kids get affected, even the slightest candy could be like, oh God, as you said, your breath is taken away. So, given all of these treasures and of course Swamiji's constant protection, I'm sure the way you bring up the kids much more aware as to what are the words we are using for them. It should not have a negative impact or negative idea, the lower inner image that we create about ourselves, and giving the right cognition. And like, can you share any one click or one cognition from Swami that you ensure that the kids have?
I think it's to bring authentic listening to them, to really hear what they're experiencing and what they're feeling like. So, and also because I'm aware of the completion science that Swamiji has given us, if there's an accident that happens, like let's say, they're in the pool and one time maybe he got water, in his mouth, and, if my son got like scared from that, I would make sure I would talk to him about it and understand how he felt and really give him a chance to vocalize what he's experiencing, but then also not to let that become like a fear going forward of water, because that happens. It's very common to have fear of drowning and fear of water. So, so I realized, and this is like, during a vacation at the beach, and so I realized, from that day forward, I was like, let's go make sure we go back in the water the next day again and again. Let's keep going back, and we'll be safe, we'll be careful. But by the fifth or sixth time, they were completely forgot that there was an accident in the first place. They were totally confident and totally, you know, very not at home, and whereas if I'd been very nervous and scared as a parent, I'd say, no, don't go back in the water. Let's keep away from that. That just becomes a fear that they'll carry the rest of their life. And that's a tragedy. So it's even from small things to big things, um, that those principles still apply. And it's been really nice having those teachings to kind of guide us on a day-to-day level, not just, because Swamiji talks about such profound spiritual truths sometimes, but they actually are also about our day-to-day mundane lives too in many ways, and applying them there is really, rewarding. Yeah.
So Swamiji talks about, the internet. He actually calls it as an epidemic. That is what the world is facing now, especially the kids, the youth. That there's uncontrollable. There is no control of even their screen time. How many hours they spend scrolling the phones or being on the internet. How do you manage that for your kids? Of course, your kids are young, but how do you, like, do they have a screen time, or how do you monitor and manage that?
Yeah, no, it's difficult because there's no like it's a work in progress. It's an everyday thing because it is so, the screen time can be so addictive too. It's such an easy thing to say, okay, just take the phone and you can be occupied. But then you realize they're just standing there, they're sitting there like zombies, and also the things they're seeing oftentimes aren't necessarily good things. And so um, the one way I've been, handling it is that just I realize the internet itself is a very Wild West place. Like, especially, even YouTube, there's just the algorithm will go to one thing to next thing to next thing, and suddenly you realize, what are these kids watching, And so I've tried to limit them in terms of, if they watch something, it's going to be like a movie that's like a discrete, one thing they're watching, not some random YouTube, algorithm, 4 shows in a row. So at least I have some idea of what they're watching. And that way, because if I see what they're watching and I'm aware of it, I can help them contextualize that and understand that. If they have concerns about it, at least I can give them that understanding of what, it means, right? And so I think being a parent's a full-time job. You can't just, shut them off and then hope that they'll work out. It has to be every day, thing. And so, like I said, it's just really a day-to-day thing of watching what they're watching and being aware of it, and then also limiting what they watch too, because it can become, like I said, a very addictive thing. But yeah, there's no, unfortunately, it's still a work in progress. Like I wish there was like a magic bullet for that, but because Swamiji has talked about that danger of it though. So because of that, we're really at least keen to that risk, and then we try to manage it wherever we can to limit it as best we can, because you want them to be able to function in the world too, but also be able to step apart from it and not be affected by it, which is a daily balance.
Yeah. Actually, Swamiji says the next generation is the new generation. They are the future. And as it is, the world is filled with so much of negativity. And it is important that the next generation becomes a new generation and more spiritual, blind, conscious, for us to have a future. So now let us listen from Swamiji. What is it? Swamiji is actually calling the internet as an epidemic. It is that is spreading around the world, and it is important, especially the youth, to be saved from this epidemic. Let us now listen from Swamiji.
Welcome to this New Gen webinar and Agori initiation. New generation has to happen from next generation. Either by the spiritual transformation, next generation becomes new generation. Otherwise, just by destroying ourselves, next generation is naturally going to be new generation. Understand? Either you transform as a transformed individuals, next gen should be new gen. If not, we are going to commit global suicide. So naturally, next gen will be new gen. Understand? The collective negativity has reached its peak. The Kali has arrived. Now planet Earth cannot stand any more negativity. Negativity of the capitalism, negativity of the consumerism, Detroit lifestyle. When I say consumeristic society, I mean abusing the natural resources of the planet Earth beyond limits, crossing the limits and abusing the natural resources of the planet Earth. Empowering individuals without giving them intelligence. Planet Earth is already filled with too much of negativity. Planet Earth is overflowing with negativity. It is not possible for the planet Earth to be alive anymore with this same trend. And the infrastructure to destroy the planet Earth is created beyond limits. Just one mad fellow becoming president or a prime minister or head of Any one atomic power state is enough to finish off the future of the future of the globe, future of the humanity. So next gen has to be new gen. No other way. If you are not going to transform spiritually and nullify the collective negativity, we are going to commit global suicide, and next gen will be simply new gen. Somebody asked Einstein, how will be the fourth world war? He said, if there is a fourth world war, it will be with the stones. Because third world war will finish the planet Earth. Only next human civilization, fourth world war can happen. That will naturally start with stones. Today especially I am going to address the negativity youth are facing. Today I am specially going to address and give even a kriya to get out of the worst and dangerous epidemic humanity is facing today. Degeneration of the youth. Youth most unused resource on the planet Earth is youth energy. Never ever planet Earth was in this crisis. First time planet Earth is facing this crisis. Majority of its population is youth. Wild, violent. Please understand, always planet Earth was in a position where more than 50% of its population was elders, matured, whose blood has become cool, stable. First time planet Earth is in a position where majority of its population is youth. Please understand, India, youngest country in the world. You need to understand my word, not as per the history. As per the history, this is the oldest country. That is different. Youngest means the huge population, youth, between 18 to 40. China, second youngest country. US, all these three countries, more than their 50% of population is youth. It means practically half of the planet Earth, more than half of the planet Earth is youngsters, youth. Never ever planet Earth faced this crisis. So much of power, the decision-making power is handed over to youth. It is now youth who are going to decide to make or break the planet. This is the time you don't need to lift human beings, you need to lift youth. That is why this incarnation happened in young body. $243 million individuals are between 10 to 19 in India. Please understand. 24 crore is just between 10 to 19. And India's adolescents are 20% of the world's adolescents. World has 1.2 billion adolescents. Anyhow, understand. Today I am going to address one of the major problems youth are facing. I just wanted to ask a few questions. I wanted you all to answer these questions for yourselves. Are you spending several hours on the internet every day, either playing games, chatting with friends, browsing websites? Are you on the internet? When you are on the internet, do you lose track of time? Do you find yourself forgetting about eating, drinking, and other activities because you are so obsessed with the computer in front of you? Please ask all these questions to yourself. Do you find yourself staying up all night on the computer? Do you get distracted from studies, spending time with family and friends because you are constantly thinking and wanting to get on to the internet? Can you do without the computer or internet for a day without exhibiting any symptoms of withdrawal such as restlessness, irritation, boredom, anxiety, and feeling low? If you answered yes to these questions inside you, then you are one among the millions of youth suffering today with online epidemic called online addictions. Understand? I can repeat the questions once more. I wanted you to get the questions. I wanted you to understand the questions. Are you spending several hours on the internet every day, either playing games or chatting with friends, browsing websites? When you are on the internet, do you lose track of time? Do you find yourself forgetting about eating, drinking, and other activities because you are so obsessed with the computer in front of you? Do you find yourself staying up all night on the computer? Do you get distracted from studies, spending time with family and friends because you are constantly thinking and wanting to get on to the internet? Can you do without computer or internet for a day without exhibiting any symptoms of withdrawal such as restlessness, irritation, boredom, anxiety, and feeling low? If you answered yes to these questions, then you are one among the millions of youth suffering today with the online epidemic called online addictions. If Ramakrishna was alive today, he would have said, see, when he was alive, he always used to insist, Kamini Kanchana Tyaga, means renouncing the lust and gold. Renouncing the lust and gold is the only way for God. He will always say, let the Kamini Kanchana Tyaga happen, peace will be on you. I know for sure, if he is in the body now, he will say, Kamini Kanchana Computer Tyaga. He will amend his words. Kamini Kanchana computer tyaha. Understand, these online addictions are becoming one of the major problems of the youth. I can define this online addiction. Uncontrollable and damaging obsession and use of internet technology which can deprive your health, relationships and fulfillment in life. Please understand. This is a very important definition. I can define the online addiction in my own way. Please understand. Addicted to anything which is not being experienced by your senses directly. Please understand. Even in the online, you are not addicted to seeing. If you are addicted to seeing, then it is directly the senses. No, you are addicted to the emotional chaos which happens in you, the emotional roller coaster which happens in you by the fantasy of seeing. Please understand. Seeing things in the internet and computer is not like seeing. It is not even the pleasure of your senses. No. It is not even pleasure of your senses. It is the pleasure of fantasies, pleasure of emotional tsunami, emotional roller coaster, psychological tsunami happening in you. That is why I say addicted to anything other than the straight five sensory pleasures is what I call online addiction.
Yes. In this satsang, Swamiji describes, he addresses the urgent need for a new generation to emerge, not just biologically, but also spiritually transformed to avoid the global catastrophes that we are all seeing today. And Swamiji warns of the unsustainable levels of collective negativity driven by capitalism, consumerism, and internet addictions, particularly among the youth. And Swamiji also emphasizes in this satsang that the world is in a critical state and introduces the word online epidemic, describing it as one of the worst crises that humanity is facing today, where young people are addicted not just to the sensory pleasures, but also to psychological chaos and emotional highs generated through internet overuse. So, Aya, I have a question for you. In this satsang, Swamiji speaks about how the youth are being addicted not just to the internet, but also to emotional chaos and psychological fantasy. So how do you help your boys stay grounded and emotionally stable in today's overstimulating world?
Sorry, apologizing for the technical glitch. We had some audio issues. So a powerful revelation Swamiji is giving about the dangers that the youth are facing, especially with the internet epidemic, that youth today are addicted, watching so many hours or being the screen time that they are spending, how much influence, how much of negativity that has on the youth. So, Vinishaya, listening to this, we are so blessed that we have Swamiji in our life, giving the right knowledge, especially the danger that we have with the internet. And as Swamiji was sharing about the emotional chaos the youth goes through, the psychological fantasy. But of course, your children are kids now, but still, psychological fantasy, especially in their age, where their friends, the friends' role models are Superman and Barbie dolls. Your kids, how are you bringing them up, especially having the ultimate hero, Swamiji, as the role model in their life? What is the difference that you're seeing, and how? And I'm sure still they are facing the peer pressure of how different it is outside with their friends and cousins or brothers. How is that? How are you managing that, and how are they growing up?
Yeah, no, it's a really big challenge as a parent living today in 2025, raising kids. It's a very it's a very negative world out there, right? And so, especially as an adult, it's easy to say it's not my problem. I can kind of do my own thing, whatever. It doesn't affect me. But when you have kids, it really matters a lot because you're thinking everything they experience, everything whether it's food or what they read or what they watch, it's going to affect them, and thanks to Swamiji, we have such a strong understanding now of how things can affect us emotionally and become lifelong problems, right? And what struck me watching that video was that that was several years ago that he said those things, and it's only become more true now. And at the time when he said it, I would have said, yeah, there's some people, maybe they spend too much time online, but online there's some good things too, right? But now, all these years later, I can say, no, it is quite negative. The online world, for whatever benefits, it's actually been more negative in some ways. I almost think life was better before the smartphone, because before you could make a phone call, you could do your thing, and that's it. You wouldn't have this device in your pocket constantly, being a part of your daily fabric of your existence, And so, especially with kids, it's such an easy thing. I think any parent will say, yeah, at some point they've just given the laptop or given the phone to the kid and said, hey, you can watch your shows and stuff and be quiet, But knowing now the damage it's doing, knowing now what the long-term effects of these things are, we have a whole different context about it. And so, for us, we one thing we did was we live out in the country a little bit. We live in a more rural setting. And so our kids are outside more. They're on bikes, they're outside, they're enjoying sunshine. That's how I remember growing up as a kid, being outside all day. And now I think about it, and no kids are outside all day. Most kids are in their room on their phone and watching God knows what and learning God knows what, And so for us, it's been just just trying to change the whole ecosystem that they're in, right? So they still have some screen time, they still get to watch some shows and some things as long as we approve of what they're watching. But otherwise, they can be outside. They have to be creative, and they can have fun. And the beauty is that, my son a couple days ago came back and he had spent like the past hour looking at some ant colony he had found in the property, and he was watching it and seeing the ants, what they were doing. And I thought, wow, that itself is so much more valuable and so much more meaningful. Like Swami said, a real experience, seeing something real, not on a screen. That's so much more valuable as a childhood memory than some show he'll forget, and never remember again. So, like I said, as I've said before, in earlier questions, having that new awareness that we have of these problems and what the long-term damages of these things, and especially for youth, it's completely shifted our approach as parents for how we handle them.
So you are part of.
Yes, sorry for the technical glitch. Yes, so Aya, Swamiji also emphasizes about the conscious decision making, and I mean, children they start making simple choices, simple decisions as early as 12-month old. So how do you encourage your children towards spirituality and to make conscious choices, especially when they're surrounded by peer pressure and digital distractions?
So, one thing I remember Swamiji saying about kids, which always stuck with me, was he said, kids don't do they don't do what you say, they do it what you do. They see what you do and do what you do, right? So the biggest uh, example of how I've been as far as raising them in the cognition I hold is to be a good example. And that way they can see that you're not doing this, whether it's screen time or whether it's adopting a Hindu lifestyle. They see us doing that on a daily basis in real terms, right? And oh, sorry. And for them it's something they witness, they see, and they see the example, and they don't think it's strange. They actually, if I ask them to come to the temple with me for I'm doing puja that day, they're pretty fine with it. There's not a problem. They're aware of their the importance of temples. They're aware of different gods and goddesses. These are, for us, it's been making it not an abnormal thing, because I feel like in some ways growing up I had to learn a lot of that on my own. I had to explore Hinduism on my own and read about it, and then come to understand it in ways that maybe I hope for them it'll be easier, because they're seeing it on a daily basis. They're seeing how we appreciate it, how we respect it, and then they see, when someone is giving satsang, they're often in the background. They can hear, and so that's one nice thing about having kids that are initiated by Swamiji, and in my case, both my kids were miracles by Swamiji. So I know his presence is there in them, and he's guiding them. And it's worked out in so many beautiful ways in terms of the school we found for them. It's a smaller school. They have smaller classes, and so it has better values. They don't even all meet on the campus. So it's we've been I feel blessed that we've been able to find places for them where they can still have they can still be in a modern classroom setting, but they can also maintain the principles that we've taught them. And I think, because, as I mentioned earlier, we really try to listen to them at a deep level on their concerns, on what they want, because we've been authentic listening to them. It's a much easier, they'll vocalize their concerns, they'll vocalize what they want, and maybe where they're feeling peer pressure, they wouldn't have otherwise said those things, but because they trust us and they feel that connection to us, they're willing to talk about those things, and then we can find a positive way forward where they can still, again, like I said, exist in the modern world, but also maintain their principles and their traditions and their culture.
I have one question I wanted to ask. You are part of the ecosystem of KAILASA. In KAILASA San Jose, one of the ecosystems where the spiritual routine is maintained. I don't know for how many years now. The morning yoga has been going non-stop every single day, and you are one of the people that have been very integrated to that morning routine attending. And given that the spiritual routine also as your responsibility as a pujacharya in KAILASA San Jose temple, how do you inspire your kids to take up that life and be part of that routine, having a spiritual routine in their day-to-day life, whether it is doing puja, doing yoga, or coming to the temple with you, learning the culture? Do they help in the temple rituals? How is their life?
Yeah, I've been doing puja and yoga at home, for example, and they'll wake up and they'll see me doing it, and they'll kind of join with me sometimes. Like they'll climb on my back, or they'll if I'm doing puja, they'll sit on my lap. And so just them participating with me in that level is such a wonderful thing, because I think kids in America who are Hindu growing up, they don't experience that very much. It's Hinduism is still not, I feel like we talk about it, we express the importance of it, but as far as practicing it and making it a lifestyle, a day-to-day lifestyle, that's a very rare thing. It's only Swamiji has given us that. So yeah, when they come to the temple, I'll have them help me out and carry things for me, and sometimes, and it's as they get older, I want them to do more, and they can wear, I can make them wear dhoti and stuff, and they can help be little interns in the temple, But it's having that ecosystem is really wonderful, because doing it on your own is really hard. It's really tough to kind of maintain not just the lifestyle, but also having the right cognitions and ideas about how to apply to their lives. But thankfully, we have that, both through Swamiji and his satsangs, but also locally having the temple nearby. Definitely, it helps keep that lifestyle alive, And so we feel very blessed to have that ecosystem here, and growing that and expanding that, of course, is our main goal now, main priority, so others can experience it too.
And yes, so beautiful, Aya. And also, Aya, you've mentioned that how you had to learn in order to be able to better guide your kids. So you've been with Swamiji for so many years, and you are a founding member of KAILASA, and you've been listening to Swamiji like every day, all the satsangs, right? So how has the teachings of Swamiji, the powerful cognitions that Swamiji has given you, has helped you to become a better parent and better guide your kids? And especially you've mentioned that in today's world, in 2025, it's not easy to it's not easy to be a parent. So how has Swamiji's teachings, powerful cognitions that he has given you, helped you?
So, it's there's so many examples. I mean, even from the smallest examples, I remember Swamiji saying that it's a good thing to have your kids, sleep in your bed, to be near you and share the bedroom with them. And so we've done that, and we've done that for several years, and I think the kids are so secure now because of that. They feel so close to us, and they feel that sense of just closeness that I don't think they would have if they were kept in a separate room right away. So there's things like that are just small examples, but have big effects. But there's also ideas like Advaita, where when you see that your kids are an expression of you, I mean, not just biologically but spiritually, they're an extension of you. It changes how you approach them and how you handle them, because you realize, if I need to change them, I need to change myself first. There's something in me that I need to address, and what's happening outside is a reflection of me. That's happened so many times now, where I've seen that, and I've realized, oh, okay, that's maybe if they're on the screen too much, maybe I'm on the screen too much too, and I need to fix that in me and change that, correct that. And sure enough, by doing that, things just evolve on the outside too. And that's something that's too huge. It's like literally the experience of Advaita in your mundane day-to-day, existence, which otherwise is a very profound, big philosophical concept that when you read about it in books, which I had read so many times in different books, but to actually experience it and to see it and feel it and apply it in your life on something as simple and real as raising kids is really profound, and something only Swamiji, can offer.
How is your family related? Or the whole family is connected and devoted to Swamiji. How is the experience for the kids, especially having Swamiji in their life? How do they connect to Swamiji? How do they relate with Swamiji?
Yeah, I see him in them too. Like they have a certain spark in them that I don't always see in other kids, and that's true of, I think, any kid that grows up around Swamiji. They just have that. It isn't. There was one time I remember, a few years back when we were, maybe it was during one of the first Burma Shivam programs, and Shivraj was running around like naked behind the screen, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like trying to grab him and put some pants on him, because it was a hot day, it was summer, and I'm sure Swamiji would approve. He likes to raise a kid should be all natural, right? So he's like, so I was like, no problem. But then of course he passed by the screen, and so I'm like rushing, trying to grab him and put something on him. And then Swamiji made a comment saying, "Oh yeah, I see, Vanesh's son. You think he's just playing around, but he's hearing every word I'm saying." And I thought, wow, he's Swamiji's like, he's clearly watching everyone, and even if the kids are just there passively while the satsang is on or darshan's happening, I know they're affected. I know they're experiencing it, and I just see it in the joy they bring to others, and the kind of the spark they radiate. Because every teacher who's had them, every class they've been in, every teacher says, "Wow, these kids are so magical. They have such a beautiful light in them." And that's a light that, again, it's because Swamiji sparked that in them. And so, like I said, we feel very, very blessed to be able to raise kids around, with Swamiji in our life, because otherwise it's a really, really challenging task in this world. But so far they've been, it's been such a blessing to have them around and have this time with them. And it's parenthood's one of those things where it's like you forget what life was like before. It's like Swamiji in some ways. Before Swamiji, you can't remember that life. I can't remember my life before kids now, because I thought, wow, it's much free time. I used to go places and do things, and I could do whatever. And now it's like you're constantly focused on taking care of them, but Swamiji also says life is for others. And there's something about that when you have to raise kids or raise animals or whatever, when they're dependent on you, you really grow a lot, and you experience so much in that. And it's really beautiful to experience those principles and those teachings in the day-to-day life with something as simple as interactions with your children. So that's something that we can really appreciate, those of us who are close to Swamiji, that he's given us.
Definitely, definitely that assurance we have from Swamiji. So actually, Swamiji, we have been listening to this webinar for the internet epidemic, the message that Swamiji had for you. It's a very powerful message and what Swamiji has to say. Let us now continue to listen to the satsang of Swamiji.
Humanity has gone to the peaks of perversion. Now you don't even enjoy directly. See, even if you are with your senses down to earth, physical, transforming you is always possible. The possibility is always available. Because our masters have created powerful methods, techniques, kriyas to transform you. If you are addicted to something directly of five senses, eating, touch pleasure, seeing, listening, smelling, if you are directly addicted, at least you have a solution, possibility of transformation. I tell you, when you are directly using your senses to enjoy, when the senses retire, it gives you the maturity and you become ripe. You are now ready to relax into the restful awareness. But when the perversion happens, human beings get into the space where curing, transformation, healing becomes almost impossible. Cinema, visually presenting some concepts to you. Cinema brought one of the major problem to humanity, old age sexual perversion. Please understand, even when your senses are tired and retired, mind is not tired or retired, mind is too active, but body has lost the capacity. This is the main reason for the old age perversions. All the old age perversions happens just because of cinema. And of course, cinema is soft pornography. From there naturally hard pornography. Understand? If you stop with the natural growth, you take birth, you assume a human body, you get physically matured, and you enjoy all the senses and pleasures, and you grow, your body is tired and you retire, you will be out of the need for pleasure. But humanity does not even know the meaning of the word natural growth anymore. It's almost like a Matrix movie. The artificial intelligence which you created has taken over the humanity. The moment cinemas entered human life, visual presentation, the possibility of visual presentation has entered human life. The old age perversion became part of lifestyle. I can tell you. Now, with the internet entering into human life, becoming part of the humanity, one of the worst perversion is happening. not just old age perversion, youth perversion. I tell you, billions, please understand, I am not using the word millions, I am saying billions have become psychologically impotent. They are no more qualified, capable of living their life. They are no more capable of living their reality. They lost connection with the reality. Reality is no more part of their life. Just today, I was reading a joke. One guy is sitting under a tree reading a book on how to play computer game about golf. See, playing golf, there's a computer game. I'll show you that comment. I'll show you the scene. Two guys are sitting under the tree, and why don't you project that, man? One guy is asking, what did you bring to read? The other guy is answering, it is a book of tips for my new computer golf game. So you are reading, the other guy is asking, so you are reading a book about computers stimulation of an activity that is almost a sport, that is about as close as you can get to being a non-organic life form. And this the guy is saying this chapter is about driving the little cart. First thing, golf itself is a game for the old people, where you don't move anything. And that golf is coming in computer. Inside your screen you are going to play the whole golf. That's the second funniest thing. Third, you are not even playing, you are reading a book about playing. Human beings have almost become vegetables. Please understand, this is one of the biggest danger happening to humanity, especially to youth. You are moving away from reality. You may think, online addiction is such a simple problem. Why is Swamiji talking about this online addiction so much? Please understand, it is not such a simple problem. It is a pattern deeply rooted in a big disorder, very big disorder. Online addiction is an engram rooted in the deep disorder of not able to be alone. Please understand. A recent study in Stanford University of School of Medicine says 1 out of every 8 persons, means 12.5% is suffering from some form of internet addiction. 12.5% of the human population. I think even alcohol, people are not addicted this many percentage. I don't think 12.5% of humanity is addicted to alcohol. But 12.5% of humanity is addicted to internet. Degeneration of youth primarily is happening with various online addictions. Online addictions include obsession to watch pornography, obsession to spend several hours on the internet, either playing games, socializing on the internet, includes indulging in sexual acts on the internet like chat sex. Psychologists are now claiming that online addictions have similar adverse effects as other more publicized addictions like drugs and alcohol. Please understand. If you are addicted to alcohol or drugs, what all dangers you face in life, disturbances you face in life, you go through the same sufferings with online addiction also. The after effect of the online addictions is disastrous. Online addicts are left with no social life, no self-confidence, lonely, shy, anxious, depressed. Their life is taken over by this addiction, causing them to forego basic responsibilities. See, when somebody is addicted to online, even the basic responsibility like taking bath, eating, studying, playing, even these things disappear. One of the worst things is that they get completely disconnected with other human beings, completely getting into a shell of their own, leading to a disastrous social, academic and behavioral problems. Unfortunately, internet becomes their one and only medium of socializing. I can see how people, even if both of them are sitting in the same room, they only send a message through chat or Twitter. I love you. I miss you. Human beings forgot how to relate looking into the eyes. See, when you look into the eyes of somebody and say, I love you, you open up. You are inviting the person to enter you. But with the internet, it is a lot more easy. I tell you, every time when you look at somebody's eyes and say, I love you, it's a spiritual practice. For those few moments, whoever it may be your child, it may be your father, it may be your beloved, it may be your boyfriend, it may be your girlfriend. If you are looking into the eyes and saying, there is a conscious transaction. Every conscious transaction, either by bringing joy or suffering, transforms you. Please understand. Every conscious transaction, either by bringing joy or suffering, transforms you. But understand, when you are on the Twitter, I love you, I miss you, you are the most handsome man in the planet Earth. You are the beauty queen of the planet Earth. You can go on lying because you know for sure the other person cannot find out you are lying. I receive like this hundreds of tweets. But I always ask them, thank you for the compliment, but do you really mean what you say? See, when you look into the other's eyes and say, the other person will find out whether you are telling the truth or not. But with the internet, you don't need to. Nobody will find. Please understand, you completely get disconnected from the reality. That is one of the biggest problem. You don't know real love. You don't know real fear. You don't know real greed. You don't know real jealousy. I tell you, only the real fear can be transformed. Real lust can be transformed. Real jealousy can be transformed. Real love can be transformed. There's a beautiful incident from Ramana Maharshi's life. Ramana Maharshi was lying down on the couch. Somebody goes to Bhagavan and says, Bhagavan, please give me a little sacred ash. Bhagavan says, it is there in the cup, please take it. It is there in a small coconut shell. He says, please take it. The devotee says, no, Bhagavan has to give from his hand. Ramana Maharshi says, that hand and this hand, both are Bhagavan's only, please take it. Then the devotee is not ready to listen, he just gets that vibhuti, puts it at the feet of Bhagavan and takes it. Bhagavan laughs and says, you are not touching the real Bhagavan by touching that feet. You are only touching the house of the Bhagavan. Understand? He says, even while Bhagavan's feet was touched, he says, you are not touching Bhagavan by this. You are only touching the house of the Bhagavan. Even touching the body, he says, is only a perverted understanding of touching you. If somebody touches your body and says they touched you, please understand, it is only perverted understanding. It is not straight touching. Now, one of the biggest addiction for the modern youth is kissing the home page of your boyfriend or girlfriend. See the perversion from which limit going to which limit. Here is Bhagavan, even if you touch his feet, he says you are touching only the house where I am living, not me. But it is so unfortunate. Even our love has become so perverted. You lost the capacity of real love. Internet became a place practically where you live. And not only that, please understand, you build pseudo-identities. That Facebook, internet farming, online farming, you buy eggs and that eggs hatch and that hens again lay eggs and that eggs hatch again, you go and feed them online, you practically live. I tell you, unless I go through this, I cannot find a solution for this. So I went through this whole thing. For last few days I was meditating on this. And I downloaded many of the information. People who have online farming, within 20 days see their online farm in their dream. Please understand, I am giving you some of the important sacred secrets of online addiction. If you are having your own online farm or fishes, within 20 days, you see the effect of that in your dream. In your dream, you will wake up, oh, I have not fed my fishes online. I have not taken care of my hen online. I have not taken care of my online farm. Within 20 days, you experience this.
we're listening to Swamiji's satsang on the internet epidemic, please understand that Swamiji is not just presenting the problem. Swamiji has already given a solution. He has already revived a Hindu nation, but he is showing us where the youth is heading, how dangerous it is, and how important it is for the youth to transform, spiritually transform, and become conscious. And as we are, Swamiji has taken that responsibility for our next generation to become a new generation. He has, not only built these Kailasas around the world, but he also gives us that experience of our glorious past. I wanted to ask Aya. Aya, do you have, you are, as you had shared earlier, you are so inspired by Swamiji's vision in reviving Hinduism. Do you have had the first-hand experience of how Swamiji is doing it? Can you please share about that?
So yeah, when I decided to join SJP, it was really his mission that inspired me, because as he's been discussing in these satsangs, we need an alternative. The modern world and the modern society is so damaging and so negative especially for children, that we need a better system, and we need to go back to our roots and our traditional systems, but bring them forward into the current modern age, right? And so, of the various programs, I've been to with Swamiji, one really stood out in that regard, and that was the Shivoham program in Cambodia. And I think that was in maybe 2015. But, walking around the Angkor Wat temple complex, which is just so huge and mind-boggling. Like, pictures don't do it justice. When you're there, you see how big it is. And being there with Swamiji, and as he's explaining what different things were, different layers of the temples, what different murals meant, each aspect of it, he was explaining to us what it was and what it meant. And he told us that he brought us there to show us how great Hinduism was, like the level at the scale at which people thought, who built those places, the kings who built those temples, the scale at which they were thinking. And of course, he's thinking in that level of scale, of course, in a much bigger way. And that's what inspired me, as far as seeing that only he can do this. Only he has the vision. Forget actually doing it. Only he even can conceive of something so big as to recreate Hindu civilization, to start a new nation. All these things are things that others might even just discuss, but they could never possibly attempt, let alone achieve. And so it was that program where being there with him, walking in I've been in temples in India, but nothing at the scale of what I saw in Cambodia. And sadly, because I think so many were destroyed, so many were lost, it took us out. We had to leave India to find the authentic, example of that Hindu culture as it actually was. And it's something I'll never forget, because it was so grand and it was so inspiring, and it made me very proud and said, wow, these people, this wasn't even the core part of their civilization. This was an offshoot. Cambodia was just an offshoot of that Hindu civilization. And yet look how big it is, look how grand it is. And we can only imagine what it must have looked like in India at that time, before the invasions and before, everything that happened there. And so that was just a moment where I thought, wow, we need this civilization back, because modern civilization is just consumeristic. It's purely negative. It's purely driven by fear and sex and greed. We need something that inspires us to higher ideals, and that's the Hindu civilization. And so, seeing him talk about it, but then actually now doing it, that was years before he actually established KAILASA now. And so, hearing that from him, and then now thinking, wow, how far he's come in just a short few years, is something that's really inspiring, and it keeps me inspired as far as supporting Swamiji in his mission.
Beautiful. Actually, in one of the satsangs, this was in 2009, I think in the Inner Awakening program, which at that time we did not understand, cognize, but later on, after Swamiji had declared Kailasa publicly, when we go back to see that satsang, this was in, I think it is 2009, Inner Awakening program, in which during a question and answer session, Swamiji very casually says, he's talking about the chaos that is happening in India, with respect to systems, things happening there, and the orderliness that is there in the Western parts of the world, how things are systematic. But Swamiji explains how India is spiritually rich, but with respect to the system functioning, things are so chaotic. And whereas the West is so systematic, organized, but spiritually poor. Then Swamiji says, well, what to do? India is lacking in, a systematic approach of organizing things. West is lacking in spirituality. Well, what to do? Only I have to create a nation which has both, right? Very casually Swamiji mentions this. And of course, none of us catch it, none of us understand it till later when Swamiji has made Kailasa very public, and then you go back and listen to it, it's like, wow, Swamiji has talked about this, hinted about this back then, but none of us got it. So like there's so many truth and revelations that Swamiji, since 2007, Swamiji has been working on this, reviving this nation, which much later, come to see it. So it is so beautiful, yeah. And one thing that you had mentioned earlier is that your roots from Jaipur. Now Swamiji has not only revived the Hindu nation, the first nation for Hindus, but Swamiji has actually formed the United Ancient Nations for the indigenous nations around the world, indigenous kingdoms around the world, empowering each and every one of them. Now, going back to your roots of Jaipur, did you get a chance, or were you inspired to look into where your roots lead to? What is the origin of your, family and the roots which leads to any kingdom?
That's one thing, when Swami talks about the West, when he contrasts the Western world and India, it's something I can really relate to because having grown up in America yet being Hindu, I can see that distinction. I can see both sides of it. There's parts of the West that are absolutely amazing and wonderful and that you want to maintain and recreate, but the soul is lacking, right? And that soul is what's in India. That sense of that feeling you get when you walk into a temple or when you see these old places. And that's the thing I used to enjoy the most when I would go to Rajasthan, was I'd love to go to old forts and I'd love to go to temples. Those are the two places where I just felt like, wow, you lose yourself and forget what time is. Because when you go in these places, you think, wow, who made these? Who could even think about doing these things? And what society built these things, And then, of course, you contrast it with modern India and you see, wow, look at how far things have come and how little it's appreciated, So in that regard, I can really relate to what Swamiji was saying about that need for that to merge the two and to create a Kailasa, which only he can do. And yeah, I mean from my own side, yeah, I going home to Rajasthan and going and seeing those ancestral places, that was definitely a you just feel it, even though I didn't feel, having grown up in America, it's such a different place, and my Hindi is limited. It's not perfect, but so I definitely felt like I feel like a foreigner sometimes as a kid going to India, but I always felt like there's that you can feel it in the soil, you can feel it in the earth, that there is an ancestral connection here. There's your past generations were here, and so I that's probably what gave me that passion for Hinduism growing up and maintaining that connection to it and wanting to pursue it and explore it. And it was only after then meeting Swamiji I thought, wow, no, this is actually real. This isn't just something in books or in museums that you see. This is actually a real living thing. And if we don't act fast, it's going to be lost very quickly too, because if it feels like we are the last generation or two when this society could be completely forgotten and the connections of the past is completely lost. Because I think about the world my mom grew up in, and she grew up in an actual kingdom. It was a real, it was before Indian independence, and it was an actual independent kingdom. And so I think that, wow, that went on for, she can track back 21 generations in that same place for her family. And I think, wow, in 1-2 generations, it's just gone, and now we're all scattered, and it's just a memory now. It's just a memory and in photographs. So that's not just true for me and my family, but it's true for all Hindu families. The past is a very fleeting thing now, and especially with modernization and like the internet and all those things, it's becoming it's further and further away, I think. And that's where so the urgency behind Swamiji's mission is there, because if we don't act now in this, and if we don't inspire, the children today to take up that culture and to appreciate that culture and want to preserve it, and practice it, it's going to be gone very. And I'm already seeing it, like I said, happen in my own cousins, and when I go to India, it's just they don't, the things that I appreciated about our culture and the stories that I read and those things, they're not that interested. They're more interested in making money and in their careers and in their jobs, but they're not. The idea of preserving the past is kind of like they don't feel that urgency for them, and I think that they're still surrounded by it. They see it every day. They see kind of, they take it for granted in a way. But I think, it's up to us in the diaspora and also those in India to kind of all come together and really work at preserving it and appreciating it and celebrating it. And that's exactly what Swamiji is doing and giving us the opportunity to do. So, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, let us now continue to watch Swamiji, because as he is presenting the danger that the present day youth is in, the importance of spiritually evolving our next generation to become a new generation, that is important. If not, if we are at the verge risk of losing the greatest sacred tradition. And of course, that is the reason why Swamiji has taken that responsibility of reviving Kailasa, the only Hindu nation in the world, taking that entire responsibility in bringing political legitimacy so that these ancient traditions and cultures can be revived. Now let us listen to Swamiji and internalize this truths that Swamiji is sharing.
Understand? Anything enters your dream, enters your inner space. It is like if a snake bites you in the leg and poison does not get to your brain and the heart and lungs, you can be alive. But the moment poison reaches your lungs or the heart and or brain, you are dead. Online addiction getting into your dreams level means poison is getting to your brain. Really, literally you live with dreaming inside the dream. See, this waking state itself is one dream. In this waking state you have one more dream called dream state. In the dream state now you have one more dream called internet dream. Layers and layers and layers of perversion. Where is the solution? If there is one layer of perversion, you can come out of it. But the perversion is going beyond layers and layers. Please understand, layers and layers of perversion makes you old very quickly. The aging process happens very quickly. You become old very quickly. The amount of viewers spending their time and energy and money in pornography, unimaginable. It is not in millions, it is billions. Billions. I don't want to give you the statistics. It is just sickening. I have the statistics. Because it is sickening, I don't want to give. Because if I give the statistics, you will feel you are one in the billions and feel very comfortable about it. No. Only one very sickening thing is, average age of a person watching the porn online worldwide is 11 years. Please understand, average is 11 years. Then millions below 11 are watching. That is why average is 11. How sickening it is. Where are we heading? 20% of men, 13% of women watch porn online while they are at work. And what work is happening? Above all this, one of the biggest concern I have is about FOMO addiction, means fear of missing out. Modern youth is suffering with this biggest problem, fear of missing out. Fear of missing out. Oh, if I am not there, I will miss that. If I am not here, I will miss this. If I am not there, I will miss that. If I am not here, I will miss this. So try to be all over everywhere. Try to be in the internet, try to be in the Twitter, try to be in the website, try to be in the social networking site, Facebook. Don't miss anything. Fear of missing out. See, the fear of missing out is nothing but thickened version of attention need. Attention need going to its peak is fear of missing out. This is one of the worst perversion, I tell you. After the internet entered human life, I feel I have to review and revive, redefine all my meditation techniques. Now your Mooladhara is not just fantasy. I will have to add internet fantasies, one more layer. I have to develop a new Kriya. Your Swadhisthana, not just fears, internet related fears. I have to develop one more Kriya. Your Manipuraga is not just ordinary worries. Your navel center is not related to just ordinary worries. Now it is suffering with internet related worries. And your Vishuddhi is not just suffering with jealousy, internet related jealousy. I have 1000x and hen, somebody else has 2000x and hen. People feel empowered based on the online farming. You don't understand. It is literally castle in the air. You built castle in the air, but you are so happy in living in it. Where modern science is leading you. These guys have given you so many theories, philosophies saying there is no heaven, hell, Kailash, Vaikunt. Finally now they are giving you internet, Facebook Kailash. The Facebook world. Kailash is much better than Facebook world. See the human perversion. This fear of missing out is the worst fear. Fear of aloneness. In Upanishad we have a very beautiful definition. Kaivalya means established in aloneness, completely happy in very aloneness. In your very aloneness, being joyful, no need for anything from outside world to excite you. You are there in joy, ecstasy. Missing that aloneness. The opposite extreme of Kaivalya is fear of missing out. FOMO addiction. One extreme is Kaivalya, another extreme is fear of missing out. Addiction to the internet is bigger than TV. FOMO only, fear of missing out only leads you to buying something a bigger TV than your neighbor, vacation, or anything. This Facebook syndrome, Facebook addiction disorder. When you look at all these modern day problems the youth is facing, the only solution is become agori. Agori tapas is the only way you can conquer this modern day sufferings and addictions human beings go through. Agori tapas means straight going against. Continuously working on bringing self-centeredness in your system is agoratva. The definition of agoratva is bringing self-centeredness in you with strong, straightforward practices is agoratva. I tell you, really humanity is suffering too much. Really humanity is suffering too much because of these modern day addictions, internet addictions, especially youth, youngsters. I want the youth, youngsters to come out of these addictions. Please understand, these addictions directly affect your spiritual identity, your spiritual personality, your consciousness itself. It is not just affecting your social identity and your profession. It is affecting straight away your spiritual identity. Only awakening your spiritual identity can cure this addiction, get you out of these addictions. That is the reason I wanted the modern day youth to have the spiritual understanding and the spiritual transformation to get out of these modern day addictions. Now I will answer your questions and throw more light and method to be out of these addictions. Please read out the questions.
My teenage son does not believe in God and believes money makes the world go round. Capitalism, that believing in selfishness prospers. He's a school dropout. Please guide me on showing him the right path and bless him to follow a conscious, blissful life. Some of his classmates are threatening parents with suicide and bunking classes to go to the hookah bars and boozing bars. It's a very frightening situation where our youth are heading, as they believe only what they see and proud of their logic and overconfident of the knowledge from TV and internet. and false achieving from winning computer games.
Let me read the question. My teenage son does not believe in God and believes money makes the world go round. Capitalism, that believing in selfishness prospers. Quoting US as an example, school dropouts do well. Please guide me on showing him the right path and bless him to follow a conscious, blissful life. Please understand. Rita, it is not just your son. Like your son, millions of kids are suffering only in India, billions in the world. It's a crime of society. Irresponsible way of the society leads its next generation. I just can't even understand the gravity of the situation. Let me read the further question. The question says, some of his classmates are threatening parents with suicide and bunking classes to go to hookah bars and boozing. It's very frightening situation where our youth are heading, as they believe only what they see and proud of their logic, overconfident of the knowledge from TV and internet, false achievement from winning computer games. Understand, in computer games, whether you win or lose, you lose. If you win, your false confidence destroys your life. If you lose, your depression destroys your life. Something basic has to change in the planet Earth. A huge conscious tsunami has to happen. That is the only way humanity, the youngsters, the youth can be saved. Something like a 10,000 youth should become agoris and teach this great truth of spiritual transformation and enlightenment to the world. That is the only way we can even take the right understanding to the humanity. I invite all of you who are sitting with us around the world in this webinar. Let all of you decide you will become agoris. Let us take the spiritual knowledge to the world. That is the only way to transform, I am telling you. To tell you honestly, for Rita, I don't have solution. I can give solution, but I don't know how much it will be practical. I will give you a straight solution. 1 year, let your son live without internet and TV. Nothing wrong will happen. He will not lose anything. He doesn't need to catch up with what is going on in the world. He doesn't need to know the news. Relax. I tell you, 1 year, nothing else. Let him be just without TV and internet in his life. You will see how steady and centered. See, I am from a society where I heard, when I was at the age of 3, 4 and all, I heard the stories of great saints. So I heard the story of Nithyananda Sambandar, a great saint from Tamil Nadu. The story says at the age of 3, he had the Umadevi, cosmic mother's milk, and achieved enlightenment. From the age of 3, he has started singing all the sacred sentiments. All the sacred sentiments he started expressing from the age of 3. When I heard all these great stories of Tirunjana Sambandar in my life, I was inspired. Oh, I should become like Tirunjana Sambandar. I should live the life of Tirunjana Sambandar. How he was living, how great he is. And Tirunjana Sambandar became my vision, my goal, my ideal, my hero. But in the modern day, when this youth see all these zero heroes, the cinema heroes, the so-called celebrity heroes, the TV knowledge, the false internet achievement, and the concepts of Spider-Man, no. When you get all these concepts of Spider-Man as your heroes, you lose very basis of life. See, now when I tell your son not to watch, not to spend time on internet and TV for 1 year, it looks like a tapas. But I tell you, only after I started the organization, I have started even using the internet. Means from the young age, my whole personality was stabilized, established in the self-centered awareness. So the internet has become such a big addiction. Let me define addiction means living outside your self-remembrance. That's all. Constantly living in something without remembering your higher self or being reminded about the higher self. When we tell the youngsters, Tirunjana Sambandar started singing about Shiva and that sacred sentiments at the age of 3, they say, these are all stories. They may say. But when you tell the stories of the Spider-Man and Tom and Jerry, they feel as if it is true. I see really, when I went to the Universal Studio, I saw there the people dress up like those characters. Tom and Jerry and Spider-Man, Dracula, all these characters. Kids really believe they are those characters. Characters and take photographs. We moved too much away from the reality. We moved too much away from the truth. The modern day youngsters, modern day youth is really moving too much out of the reality. If you want to save your son, bring him to the 1 year course. Of course, we will give him yogic body, Vedic mind, we will make him do yoga, we will make him meditate, we will do everything. Those things are secondary. We will get him out of addiction. That's the first thing. One young boy, I can't say young, maybe I can say neither a child nor youth, adolescent. One guy is insistent that he wants to go to US. He is even going to decide whether I am his beloved Swami or unbeloved Swami based on my decision to send him to US or not. But I am very clear, I am not going to send him. I will not recommend. Because if this guy goes there, his cousin brothers are there, where he will learn all these video games and start looking at that lifestyle. See, even looking at the Western lifestyle is a sin. Forget about living. Even looking can put unconscious seeds into you. But what to do? Now these modern day kids, you can neither control nor give them the truth. It is just suffering, suffering, suffering. Let me be very honest. If the new gen has to be evolved, it is not going to happen with a small tinkering, altering, repairing work. No. Something from the very root has to change. That is why I am going to the extreme of recommending the lifestyle of Aghoris. Means all the youngsters take up at least 1 year of wandering, living the Parivarajaka life, life of pilgrimage. Don't settle down anywhere. Just travel, go to different places, different cultures, see different traditions, live with different people. Naturally, when you don't settle down, you will not have TV and internet. One year will really enrich you. If you are not able to do that, at least come here. Spend 1 year away from TV and internet. Second, building the yogic body and Vedic mind. Above all, serving others, contributing to others, making difference in others' life. I tell you, Aghori, the only antidote for internet addictions. Very boldly, I invite the youth of modern day, and I sincerely recommend living at least 1 year of Parivarajaka life. Parivarajaka life means pilgrimage life, wandering. If you are from India, wander all over India to experience different cultures, different way of life, thinking style, philosophies. You will be enriched. If you are from outside India, travel to different countries. At least 1 year of life of pilgrimage. If you can't take up that, at least come here. I have created a place where the same amount of enrichment will be done to you, because you may be stable here sitting in one place. Thousands from different society and civilization come here. They will enrich you and go out. Two options. Either you go to all those places, see, listen, talk, discuss, internalize and enrich yourself, or just be here. They are all constantly coming here. Everything is happening here. This is the most happening spiritual city on planet Earth. Nithyananda Nagara, Nithyananda Dhyanapida is the most happening spiritual city on the planet Earth. Here you can see all types of people. Tights, looses, everything you can see. All types of people come here. All types of philosophies are brought here. All types of arguments happen here. All types of discussions happen here. All types of spiritual experiments are continuously happening here. So all of them will come, actually all of them do Parivirajaga to this place. So they will all enrich you. Either you go to different places, see different culture, lifestyle, philosophies and enrich yourself. Or you come and be here. Different people, different culture, different philosophies, they all come here and enrich you. I tell you, I have some of the best people and I have many mediocre between both. I have some of the best seekers. Both will enrich you. Some will teach you what to do and some will teach you what not to do. I have all types of people. I have all types of brains. I have all types of seekers. Sometime I tell some people to be in silence for enlightenment. Sometime I tell some people to be in silence because if they open the mouth, they will prove they are fools. If they don't open the mouth, people may suspect he is a fool. If he opens, he will confirm he is a fool. So, I put people into silence for various reasons. I have all types of people coming here. Some coming for enlightenment, some coming for lightenment, some coming for tightenment. They will all enrich you. They will all really enrich you. Understand? Either go for Parivirajaga to enrich yourself or come here. Dhyanapidam itself is a world. All types of minds. And not only that, I constantly create so many ways. All types of roller coaster mood swings will happen in you. You will be up in the morning, down in the evening. All types of roller coaster experiences, emotional roller coaster experience happens in you. New gen, come to your breeding ground. Dhyanapidam is your breeding ground. This is the place of new gen breeding ground. Nursery of new gen. Nursery of new consciousness. I welcome you all to experiment with the new consciousness. At least for 1 year. Don't decide within 1 month. Don't decide within 2 months. It is too short time. Allow it to sink. At least give 1 year. Give at least 1 year. Try it out. I tell you, it will never be a waste. This 1 year will be the best time of your life.
See, throughout this satsang that we watched today, Swamiji did not only present the problem, Swamiji gave the solution. Awakening the spiritual identity of the youth is the only solution. And Swamiji gave 1 year of no internet and take up the Parivrajaka life or come to Jnanapeetham. Swamiji said so beautifully, Jnanapeetham itself is a world. So that training, of course, that is Adi Kailash. Now Swamiji is giving the training through the Paramashiva Sena program that is presently happening in Los Angeles and St. Kitts and Nevis. It's a 30-day program where Swamiji is giving that intense training of living the Paramadvaita, awakening the spiritual identity in each and every one of us. So thank you all for watching today. And thank you, Vineshaya, for joining us today and sharing your wisdom. And is there any message that you would like to share for the parents today that are out there? Because today we are not only facing the internet, as Swamiji had warned us more than a year ago, we are in the AI deluge. So it is the next layer of delusion that is happening, and our youth are caught in this. So, given all of this that has happened, we are so fortunate and blessed that we have Swamiji in our life. So, I'd like to ask you, Aya, what is the message that you would like to give to the parents?
It's everything Swamiji said in that satsang, even though he said it more probably 10 years ago, it's become more applicable and more true now than ever. Especially since COVID, when everyone was stuck inside and became so, online all the time, 24/7. And so I think, if at the rate it's going, you can see what's happening in the world. Like, young people they're not getting married, they're not buying homes. The most basic achievements now, which were common for, young adults, aren't happening anymore. So we're seeing that the society is breaking down, and that, we're kind of in a very critical phase now. So if you have kids, and especially if you're a Hindu and you want to preserve that Hinduism in your kids, Swamiji is the answer. And Hinduism is the answer for what the world needs, and Swamiji is the ones bringing back Hinduism. So, excuse me. So I think it's really something that you have to, like I said, for me, once I had kids, you realize now I have to apply these things. I have to preserve these things. It isn't just about me anymore. It's about them and their future. So, that cognition happens with almost every parent. And so if you are a parent and you have these same concerns, you're looking at the world and saying, what a crazy place it is, and how do I preserve these beautiful children? Because, as kids, like Swamiji has shown us how they're more divine than adults are. They're so close to that divinity. Now, to preserve that and to maintain that, it's only through the lifestyle and the practices that Swamiji has given us. And so, if any of this resonates with you, please, go to UAN, do the Paramashiva Sena program, experience it yourself first. And, it's not just us assuring you, it's experiential, like it was for me. It's not something I had to be convinced of. Once you experience it, it's there. It's not something you have to be talked to, you can't, no one needs to give you the pros and cons. It's there or it's not. And so see it for yourself, please.
Thank you so much, Aya. The
Thank you.
Paramashiva Sena program. Thank you for joining us and sharing your personal experiences and wonderful experiences and what Swamiji has revealed to us in terms of especially bringing up the kids. As you said, they are divine and bringing them with their true divinity.
Yeah.
So
thank you for having me, and thank you so much to Swamiji for giving us this ecosystem and these teachings and changing our lives in all these ways. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aya. And as Aya was sharing, the Paramashiva Sena program is presently happening. It is a 30-day program, absolutely completely offered for free. Of course, the divine food, as also the prasad, is offered absolutely for free. Each and every one of you are welcome to join and take part and be enriched, not only for yourself, but for your future generation. So you can register for this program at ecitizen.info/PSS. So it is ecitizen.info/PSS. Thank you all for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow at 7 p.m. at yet another session, listening to Swamiji's powerful cognitions as we celebrate the 45th Chaturmasya of our beloved Swamiji. Thank you all. Let us now close with the Purnamaka. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Bhagavat Shri Nithyananda Paramashiva Padukarpanamastu. Om Nithyanandam